We are recording.
Thank you, Mr. G. Welcome, members of the Land Use Committee. The May 11th, 2022 meeting of the Land Use Committee will come to order. It is 2:01 p.m. I'm Dan Strauss, chair of the committee. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Pearson?
Present.
Councilmember Nelson?
Present.
Councilmember Mosqueda? Vice Chair Morales?
Here.
Chair Strauss?
Present. And I do see Councilmember Mosqueda here, so just noting that for the record. Welcome, everyone. We have 13 items on today's agenda. The first is a briefing from OPCD on their outreach and engagement plans ahead of the major update of the comprehensive plan. We have 7 appointments to the Urban Forestry Commission and 5 appointments to the Design Commission. The previously scheduled vote on Council Bill 120287, which updates rooftop equipment regulations, will be postponed until the June 8th committee to allow time for additional outreach concerning some of the amendments. Before we begin, if there's no objection, the agenda will be adopted. Hearing no objection, the agenda is adopted. At this time, we will be moving into public comment. At the remote public comment period for items on today's agenda. Before we begin, I ask that everyone please be patient as we learn to operate this new system in real time. As a reminder, public comment is limited to items on today's agenda. While it remains our strong intent to have public comment regularly included on meeting agendas, City Council reserves the right to end or eliminate these public comment periods at any point if we deem that the system is being abused or is unsuitable for meetings to be conducted efficiently and in a manner in which we are able to conduct our necessary business. I will moderate the public comment in the following manner. The public comment period is up to 10 minutes and each speaker will be given 2 minutes to speak. I will call on each speaker by name and in the order in which they register on the council website. If you have not yet registered to speak and would like to, you can sign up before the end of public comment by going to the council's website. The public comment link is also listed on today's agenda. Once I call on the speaker's name, staff will unmute the appropriate microphone in an automatic prompt. You've been unmuted. Will be the speaker's cue that it is their turn to speak. Please begin speaking by stating your name and the item in which you are addressing. Speakers will cure time when 10 seconds are left of the allotted time. Once the speaker will cures the time, we ask that you begin to wrap up your public comments. If speakers do not end their comments at the end of the allotted time provided, the speaker's microphone will be muted to allow us to call on the next speaker. Once you've completed your public comment, we ask that you please disconnect from the line. And if you plan to continue following this meeting, please do so via Seattle panel or the listening options listed on the agenda. The public comment period is now open and we will begin with the first speaker on the list. We have 3 speakers today. Rob McVickers, Emily Evanson. Emily, you are listed as not present at this time. Please do know that you need to call into the phone number provided in the registration email. This is different than the listen line. And so you can call in any time, but we only have 3 public commenters, including yourself. Last, we have David Mooring, Rob McVickers, Emily Evanson, Dave Mooring. We'll go with Rob McVickers first. Please, Rob, welcome. And you'll need to press *6.
Thank you. Rob McVickers, Build Sound, townhouse builder here in Seattle. I would like to request that on one of the positions that you're going to confirm for the Urban Forestry Commission, I believe it is position number 8, development, to Mr. Mooring, that it at least be delayed, if not taken off the table altogether. And the reason I make this request is we assume when you created all of these positions on the committee that they were there to be representative of that group of people. Mr. Mooring, as far as I can tell, has no development experience whatsoever, and through his history of actions, if anything, shows to be very anti-development. And the reason I talk about this is that he has a lengthy history of appealing land use applications all over the city, not just his neighborhood. And a lot of these are short plats, which are density driven usually, but a number of them have been unit lot subdivisions, which at that point you can't stop the development. It's already in place. LUPA was not filed. So at that point, it just becomes kind of a thorn in the side, a poke at the developer. It's not accomplishing, stopping anything. It's not accomplishing any trees from staying up, any development from happening. It's just to cause chaos. And in some cases, to be honest with you, I know there's been a history of taking payments to drop these appeals, which I find distasteful and disheartening and completely undermines the credibility of whatever committee he stands on. And I'm worried that he'll use his position to further his anti-development stance within the city, using the tree commission as kind of a guise to do that. He's gathered neighbors in areas where he didn't have standing and made them believe things that weren't true.
And we are at time. If you'd like to submit any further comments, please do so. You can send them to my email address, dan.strauss@seattle.gov. Up next, we ironically have Dave Mooring. Dave and Emily Evanson, if you would like to speak, you do need to call in now because Dave is our last commenter if you do not come present. We have Dave Mooring on the line. Dave, I see you there. If you want to press *6, you got 2 minutes to speak. Dave, we have you in the meeting. You'll need to press *6, not #6.
Hello.
Hi, there you are,
Hello.
Dave. You got 2 minutes. Welcome. Good afternoon.
Oh, thank you for taking my call. I actually didn't anticipate Mr. Vickers McVicker to be calling, so I actually have to change my topic. But yeah, just to respond to Rob, I did appeal a property right next to me, which Rob developed about 5 years ago, actually. And I did take a concession from Rob to pay off my attorney, and it was something offered by Rob's attorney, not something that I asked for. So plus I also want to make sure that Mr. McVicker makes sure that he's very honest about what he says about me. I am not, as he says, an anti-developer type of person. I do, however, look at black and white issues when it comes to density. And if, in his case, he developed 4 units rather than 3, I'm going to bring it up to the hearing examiner. There's been, in Ballard alone, there's probably about 30 properties in the past 5 years where an additional unit has been developed beyond that what was in SMC 23.45.510. So my issues are to represent the city, to represent the people of the city for terms of being honest, developing what's on the site, which is actually what's in the code, rather than looking for loopholes, and rather to have people like Mr. McVickers take advantage of others. The reason I did want to call though originally was because I am planning to submit 2 comp plan proposals. One is for trees and canopy, because there's been a lot of that's covered within the comp plan. It just needs another level of refinement. And the second one is to add more density within the area of Transit Stop over by Magnolia. So thank you very much for taking this call. And I am very disappointed to hear the first caller. Thank you, David.
Yep. If you have further comments, please do send them in. I want to now call on, and lost the screen, Emily, I believe is her name. Emily Evanson, are you, Mr. G, could you confirm that Emily is not present and we have no further public comment registrants at this time?
There are no other public comment registrants.
Thank you, Mr. G. Seeing as we have No additional speakers remotely present. We will move on to the next agenda item. Our first agenda item is Council Bill 12. Oh, we are Council Bill 1208287 until our next meeting. So our first item is our here. We have a presentation from OPCD. So we are now joined by Interim Director Rico Kirandongo, Michael Hubner of Office of Planning and Community Development. So our first item is the outreach, the briefing on comprehensive plan major outreach. Gentlemen, if you'd like to introduce yourself and just want to check with the clerk, do we need to read this item into the record or are we good to go?
I can read it into the record. Agenda item 1, briefing on outreach for the comprehensive plan major update.
Great. Rico, Michael, Jason, please take it away.
Thank you, Councilmember. Rico Kirandongo, Acting Director, Office of Planning and Community Development. We've got a pretty robust presentation, so I'm going to keep my comments short. As you all know, we are embarking on a 3-year effort to update our comprehensive plan for the city. And in that process, we are laying out a very robust community engagement plan, which includes half a dozen community-based organizations with whom we're contracting to help us reach out into community, and 10 community liaisons that are helping us also in that process. Lots of moving parts and pieces. Very excited about this work. Huge implications for our city as we continue to grow. I pass it on to Michael Hubner.
Thank you, Rico, and thank you, council members, as well, for having us here today. For the record, I'm Michael Hubner. I'm the Long Range Planning Manager in OPCD and the Project Manager for the Comprehensive Plan Update. We're also joined here today on the panel by Jason Kelly, who is our Communications Director. So I'm going to start with a very abbreviated review of the Comprehensive Plan Update project, just to ground us, and then spend most of the time describing to you the different components of our approach to community engagement for this project. So our comprehensive plan is a vision of how we grow and invest in our community over a 20-year time period. It's a policy document. It's a long-range planning vision. It is grounded in 4 core values: race and social equity, environmental stewardship, community, and economic opportunity and security. As a policy document, it contains numerous goals and policies that guide many city actions. Nearly everything the city does is guided in some way by the comprehensive plan. There are broad topics addressed in 14 citywide elements or chapters of the plan, many of which are required by the state's Growth Management Act, the GMA. And overall, it's a blueprint for the location and design of new housing, commercial development, and industrial uses across the city. And it informs how we make investments in communities to ensure that housing and jobs and their growth in those are supported as we become more equitable, livable, and sustainable and resilient as a city. Oh, you already skipped. Apologies, errant finger advancing the slides. The update of the plan occurs every 8 to 10 years under state law. Our current plan, Seattle 2035, was completed in 2016, and we will be bringing a new plan for your consideration and adoption in 2024. So this effort, which we are branding the One Seattle Plan, Comprehensive Plan Update, was launched this March. We're very excited about that. We went live online and started getting information out there into the public and getting information from the public, as we'll discuss this spring. This is a 2-year process, though. This is a lengthy process with several different phases, which we shall discuss as well. at the end of which is a new vision that will guide, as I mentioned, growth and investments through the year 2044. That's our planning horizon of this next update. This plan update will respond to a number of major challenges, including racial inequities, past and current, housing costs, displacement pressures, climate, both in terms of mitigation and resilience, and the investments that are needed throughout the city to meet existing and future community needs. We'll be updating our growth strategy. Our current growth strategy for 20 years of housing and job growth is the urban village strategy. And it's been roughly unchanged since 1994. That strategy focuses most growth in compact, walkable, mixed-use neighborhoods linked by transit. Areas outside the urban villages are predominantly single-family homes. One of the presentations we brought to this committee or its predecessor last year was a racial equity analysis that highlighted the history of racial segregation and exclusion as part of the background to how we got to the planning framework we have today. Looking ahead, we know from regional projections that Seattle will be approaching 1 million people in the coming decades. And as we anticipate that growth, we will be exploring new ideas for where and how we grow to be a more equitable, affordable, and sustainable city. I'm now going to turn to the community engagement. Just to start with, a quick flyover of the goals we have for engagement. First and foremost, to be effective in communicating with the broader public, with key stakeholders in a way that is meaningful, relevant, using plain talking graphics, multiple methods of disseminating and receiving information, and to be accessible and multilingual. The engagement we are endeavoring to do is meaningful in the sense of being interactive and inviting members of the public to co-create aspects of the plan as we go forward. As Rico mentioned, we are reaching specifically out to partners in the community, community-based organizations, community liaisons, and others in this work. And we endeavor to be transparent and responsive and accountable throughout the planning process. We already have a public participation plan available on our website, and our virtual engagement timeline connects the engagement outcomes to policy development. It's something in a very live and flexible fashion we'll be posting on our engagement hub, which I'll be describing in a further slide. And we are employing a racial equity toolkit to engage key stakeholders in community throughout the city in evaluating and setting racial equity outcomes, evaluating the alternatives that we will be exploring through the update, and then moving toward a final plan going to council that we feel is doing the best toward moving the city toward being more racially equitable in the many ways that the comprehensive plan affects those outcomes. This is very much an engagement strategy grounded in an equitable approach that prioritizes resources with, and you see on the list at top, BIPOC communities, limited English populations, youth, renters, the LGBTQ community, people with disabilities, low income, and people experiencing homelessness. But we also know that this is a plan for the entire city, and there are many other categories of stakeholders and residents, businesses, organizations that will be reaching through this process. The timeline for this work progresses through several phases of engagement where there are different focuses to how we'll be engaging, how we'll be incorporating the input from engagement to correspond with key segments of the work we'll be doing in developing the plan and milestones. We are currently in the project launch phase through the end of this quarter, where we're developing and sharing project background materials and disseminating our public engagement tools. During the remainder of this year, a phase we call Shaping the Plan, we will be identifying major issues and potential growth strategies. Going into early 2023, we will be doing work to draft the plan, as well as completing the draft EIS. During that time, we'll be analyzing public input and developing goals and policies. During the remainder of 2023, we will be reviewing and refining the public comment received through the formal comment periods with the release of the draft plan and the draft EIS. And the final plan and zoning phase toward the end of 2023 into the beginning of 2024, we will be finalizing the mayor's plan with a preferred growth alternative, and also doing enhanced outreach to communities accompanying our zoning legislation proposals, which will implement the plan, and that we are also planning to move to council at the same time that we are advancing the final plan. And then finally, it goes on to council for plan adoption, and the council will be doing its own engagement with the community through the adoption process. This next slide summarizes the partners that we have been reaching through our community-based organization partnerships, our contracts with 5 different CBOs. They've each received $30,000 for 12-month contracts with engagement work plans that they each developed that are responsive to the unique needs of their communities and that adopt a very broad range of different techniques and formats to get meaningful and deep engagement with the folks that they work with, the communities that they are rooted in. This outreach approach centers equity in our engagement process, and we feel it is a more meaningful way of bringing communities that have not been as directly involved in the update in the past into this process through these partnerships. And you see the list of organizations at right: Khmer Community of Seattle-King County, the Duwamish Valley Sustainability Association, Estelitas Library, the Asian Pacific American Labor Alliance, and the Capitol Hill Eco District. This slide lists some of the many formats that they are employing to reach their communities, including surveys, use of the arts and artistic engagement and expression, video, social media, small group and larger group discussions and workshops, town halls, walking tours, tabling at community events, and in pop-up engagement and engagement in places where people gather, the places in their communities. And they will also be collaborating with each other and with other CBOs in this work. With the community liaisons, we have 10 different people who have been contracted through the Department of Neighborhoods. They're out there in community right now, educating people in each of their communities. And you can see the list at bottom, the different linguistic and cultural and other communities that each of the 10 that we have engaged are focusing their work in. They're informing those communities about the comprehensive plan update and administering a survey to ask them about their vision, their needs, their concerns, as we are scoping out the main issues that we'll be addressing in the coming months. Going into the fall, each of them will be convening and facilitating in partnership with us community conversations or discussions with a number of people coming together for a deeper dive on the issues that have been highlighted as most important to each community. We have 2 project websites. The first one highlighted here is our main seattle.gov project website. The main purpose of this website is to provide information. You can get to this website directly through the OPCD site on seattle.gov. It provides background, project documents, element and issue briefs, video presentations, background report, and the public participation plan. But we are complementing that with a second website, which we are calling the One Seattle Plan Engagement Hub. There is a direct link to the engagement hub from our website. And this is a tool that we acquired for this project that is much simpler, has many different modes of engagement and interactivity for people visiting the site. The very same information about the project will be provided, but there will also be tools to engage people in surveying, workshops and community discussions, to view or either live or as recorded panels or webinars, to engage interactively with maps, and then there'll be phases of the project where that is relevant. There are the ability to comment and have conversations online is very similar to a social network site and provides a much more conversational and interactive and engaging way for the community to interact with this project and for us to hear what people are thinking about and saying, and to incorporate that into the policies that we're developing. Importantly, there is full website translation into Tier 1 languages, which is incredibly important to us and is one of the key features of this tool that we acquired. We will also be including report outs from the community-based organization work to make visible and transparent what we are hearing from that focused engagement in each of those communities, and have that part of the conversation citywide on the Engagement Hub. Some of the content that we anticipate hosting on the Engagement Hub in the coming months includes information and opportunities to comment on our scoping for the environmental impact statement. We will be releasing a range of growth strategy concepts and inviting the public to review and to provide comment, to attend events during that period, to learn about and ask questions and provide comment as we go into our EIS analysis later this year. There will be a monthly cycle each month of presentations, webinar panels, and community conversations that people can sign up for and attend, covering a range of topics that we think are going to be featured in this update are most important, starting with centering racial equity, climate and the environment, healthy, resilient communities, transportation, housing and displacement, and other topics to be determined to round out the remainder of 2022. We will have open houses hosted on the site during the public comment periods in 2023. And then the engagement related to our zoning proposals will also have a major presence on the Engagement Hub toward the end of 2023. We have a survey, an initial survey of the public, which we have been enormously pleased to see a lot of people responding to. We have 1,600 responses so far. We don't have the final tabulated results from the survey, but we have been collecting some of the write-in responses here. And you can see on this slide, we are hearing about a whole range of topics and desires. And really that this is the visionary phase where we are asking people to envision Seattle 20 years from now. They're talking about cultural spaces, public spaces, an inclusive and vibrant downtown, a low carbon future for the city, the ability to buy a home and to live in a neighborhood that is both socioeconomically and racially diverse. We're hearing about how people get around the city, seeking alternatives to having to drive, that sort of tone of the city's communities as open and welcoming to all, the ability to live in the city as a middle income household, the health of our commercial spaces, and the way that people engage in this process in a way that the impact communities, the most vulnerable and historically marginalized communities, have a primary voice in the policy making. So that's just a little bit of what we've been hearing. I do want to, before closing out, highlight a couple of things on language access. I know this is something that council members have asked about and been interested in. As I mentioned earlier, the Engagement Hub site features full site translations in all Tier 1 languages. We have translated the documents that are posted to provide information about the plan, issue briefs, an overview of the update, a short video that provides that plan update overview. Our community liaisons are also doing in-language outreach in their communities, and the community-based organizations, several of them are developing in-language events and translated materials to meet the needs of their communities as well. So there's a lot going on for those for whom English is not their primary language. And finally, just wanted to highlight that we have been starting in last year, have been reaching out to boards and commissions. This is a great way to reach folks who are volunteering to advise the city on a number of boards, commissions, and represent a range of communities across the city. We reached 18 different boards and commissions in the fall into the early part of this year, and are planning to go out to return to many of those based on their interests over the summer, as well as to reach out to additional boards and commissions. We have a special relationship with the Equitable Development Initiative Advisory Board, the first one you see on this list, which advises our work in OPCD for our community development work. And we are meeting with them on a monthly basis to guide and steer and inform our racial equity toolkit. And finally, there are clearly, surely gaps in organizations and stakeholders we are not reaching through the above mentioned tools and techniques and partnerships. And that's where staff are coming in and reaching out to our extensive lists of neighborhood and citywide groups to inform them about the update, to find out how they want to and can be involved, and to make sure that they're part of this process over the next couple of years. And that's my presentation. I'll open it up for questions here.
Well, I see Vice Chair Morales has questions, and I know Vice Chair has been doing quite a bit of outreach regarding the major comprehensive plan update. Take it away, Vice Chair. I've got a couple questions after you.
Sure, thank you. Thanks so much for this. It's really clear to me that there's been a lot of good thinking going into how to do this differently than the city has done it in the past. So I really, really appreciate that. I do think it's important. I'm looking at slide 8 in particular, all of the priorities that you listed of who to make sure that you are reaching out to, so that, the city is built for everybody, all genders, all ages, for parents who are trying to get around with strollers, which is very hard to do in the city right now. Seniors who want to age in place, folks with disabilities, with mobility or vision impairments who need to be able to get around safely, poor folks, middle income people who want to be able to stay in their communities and not get pushed out. So I really appreciate this list. So I just wanted to say thank you for that, first of all. The questions I really have, of the groups that you've listed, I know you've contracted with 5 community organizations. Can you talk a little bit about, if you know, how or whether they will make sure to incorporate young people into their outreach strategies? I think we've got something like, 15% or so of the city's population are people under 18, and I want to make sure that we're building for them too. So can you talk a little bit about what you know, if anything, about what they're doing?
I know some, and I'll defer to my colleague here, Jason Kelly, to the extent he can help supplement my knowledge. We have actually a community engagement coordinator, Aja Hazelhoff, on our staff, who joined our staff right at the time we were ramping up this project. She is leading up this effort. This is the partnership from our point of view. The partnership with the CBOs is a really rich collaboration, and she is the expert on all of their individual work plans. But I do know that a couple of the organizations on the list have specific components that are youth oriented. I believe the Khmer community, I know, is specifically focusing their work on both elders and youth, and they have standing gatherings of both elders and youth, that they are bringing this engagement to those convenings. With the youth, I believe it's a dance troupe. They do art and dance and cultural activities with the kids of all different ages, and then incorporating a program related to getting input from them on the future of their community and the city into that. And then they have a convening of elders, and they will be having multiple meetings with those groups and having very specific output from those conversations. That's an example of a very intentional work around youth. I believe, Jason, I am blanking on this. If you could help me out, there's one other project we still have that has a very explicit and intentional youth focus. Am I not wrong about that?
The Duwamish?
I think there are multiple projects that
the Duwamish does. Yes, that is correct. Duwamish also has a youth group, again, bringing it to work that the youth were already doing, but focusing that work on the future of the city, the future of their communities, and I believe they're also using arts in that case to sort of facilitate all the different ways that we'll get information from the youth. We are also, in terms of youth engagement, that's a big emphasis of our own work. We've had conversations, for example, with the Washington APA. There's a committee that seeks to support youth engagement. We've met with them. We've met with others who are very interested in pulling youth into this project. we're hoping to get an SYEP intern over the summer as well from high school age to be part of this process. It's youth actually working on the project. So we're doing a lot in that area, and I'm sure we could do more.
Thank you. I appreciate knowing that. I know there's been, I mean, I've been doing some reading about how different communities have engaged young people too. I know they've created board games and TikTok challenges and drive-in movies. And so, you know, I will probably follow up with some of the community organizations themselves to see how they're doing it, because it would be great to have, it sounds like a really creative process is already underway. So happy to know that that's going on. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. My questions also were about how to get residents engaged in your work. And I'm not sure if the best way to do that is through community-based organizations, or if it is, you know, through your site and the engagement hub. Where, if I have a resident reach out to me, what's the best place, or I guess where is the best place to point them to? Is there just the engagement hub, or should I be identifying community-based organizations in my area?
Jason, why don't you field that one?
Yeah, the engagement hub really is the place where we want to have people steer their attention. It's where we're going to have the online presentations. We're going to have opportunities to learn from our staff and from other community members. And it's a place where they can pose the questions to our staff and to each other as we try to create a community conversation. So yeah, we really would like people to be able to go to engage.oneseattleplan.com, and we really want to foster a community conversation there where people can learn from us, we can learn from them, and we can all learn from each other.
Great, and I see Vice Chair's got another question. Vice Chair, take it away.
Thank you. So I do have a couple questions about these, the data collection piece. I know there's surveys being collected, there's, you know, focus groups, in-person things. For the online data collection, can you talk a little bit about what the collection tool is, and how those findings, let me just big picture this. I'm a little bit concerned, or just want to understand better what data or privacy protections are in place. That's one version of my question. And then the other side of that is, I just want to make sure that as we're collecting data from individuals, from their use, you know, their, however we're collecting data and using it, that we aren't sort of unintentionally using that data to recreate maps or, you know, tools that have historically led us to plan in a way that is inequitable. If that's making sense.
Yes, great question. I'll start with the survey, Jason, and then turn it over to you for a little broader view on this. So, you know, first and foremost, the survey information that we shared a little bit of with you, that's an anonymous survey to begin with. So that's not connected with people's names or locations. We are collecting demographic information about who in terms of race and whether they're homeowners or renters, and that kind of information, which will be part of our report out. But pretty far distanced from individually identifying information or even neighborhood identifying information in terms of the survey. But more broadly, people will be engaging in the engagement hub. Jason, you want to talk about how the engagement hub handles anonymity and how people become involved and what they can expect?
Yeah, so one of the benefits of using the engagement hub is that the city is not collecting individual data from any one of our users. So we're not tracking individual users by location or collecting any of their personal information. But we do allow people to control their own accounts there, so they can stay engaged in the conversation as they see fit. You can subscribe to updates so that if someone comments on a comment that you've made, that you're aware that people are responding to comments you've made, or you can tag your comments based on certain topics you're interested in. So if you want to dip back into the conversation when there's updates around transportation or housing or issues you're interested in, then you can go back to the platform and stay involved. But we certainly are not tracking any individual responses or data for any individual, but we will be reporting out aggregated data that that shows the the breadth of the populations that we're reaching through these conversations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Grace. And Vice Chair, and I see Councilmember Mosqueda has been on camera for this entire presentation. I see Councilmember Nelson's off of mute and on camera. So just checking in with you colleagues. Do either of you have comments, questions, concerns? And Councilmember Peterson also off camera or on camera, off mute. Now we're seeing the hands fly. Councilmember Nelson's the only hand that's currently up. So we're going to go Councilmember Nelson. And then I saw Councilmember Mosqueda and then Peterson.
Thank you very much. It's clear that you put a lot of thought into this process, and it's much more robust this time around. So I'm just going to be chomping at the bit to see what what some of the ideas are, and that's a ways away here. So it looks like Q3 formal public comment will begin. Will there be any sort of, I don't know, teasers or smaller sections presented in advance of this reveal here?
What you can actually
in Q3 or 4 of next year. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. So if you look back, I won't share my screen again. Just
I would say you could share your screen so that we're all looking.
Okay, great. I'm going to call up the schedule, and I think that'll help us too. Yes. Bear with me for a second. Each of the phases, and that was something that I wanted to, pardon me.
I've had the presentation up on my own screen, trying to follow along with all these great questions. So
there we go. Oh no, okay. Rika, why don't you speak to the reporting out and our sort of iterative call and response approach to engagement? I'm going to call up the schedule and then add put some flesh on those bones as you're doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you know, so we've got the 2 website resources, and one of the things that we've developed in this first phase of outreach are a series of issue papers. So we have 7 issue papers that are written in very simple language that address different subject areas of interest: transportation, housing. What we've committed to is kind of in what I would otherwise refer to as a traditional call and response fashion, to like on a 6-week cycle, we want to take each of those subject areas, lean into it, flesh it out, identify some questions that we want to put out into community. And then through our community liaisons, our CBOs, our other organizations that we're in connection with, and in our partnership with all of you, be able to provide you those packets of information. And what we really want to do through this process is connect policy ideas that we're trying to generate or think about, and tie them directly to community conversations, and in that way inform our work directly, but also be able to be in a conversation with the community about what their interests, what people's interests and concerns are, and how that will ultimately manifest itself in the plan. I think that what's critical in that is that people need to be able to see themselves in the plan, and for our city departments that we can thread the needle and draw a direct line from ideas discussed with the community, how they manifest as policies in the plan, and how that can lead to implementation at a department level and by community.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I like the way you phrase it, call and response. It's iterative, because there's always a tension between, all right, you put something out there to share, hey, this is what we're thinking. And then people think, well, it's set in stone, and what you're mostly trying to do is make sure that all voices are incorporated. So thank you very much for explaining that process.
And if I may just briefly look, can everybody see the schedule here?
Yes.
Yes. Is each of the phases that you see, at least through to when we transmit the plan to council in the spring of 2024, each of these phases will have at least one major report out as to what we're hearing, what we heard during each of these. And there will be multiple opportunities for some of them. So for example, the work that our CBO partners are doing, they will be providing us with deliverables from their work outcome, what they're hearing. And we will be posting that on the engagement hub. This is all, we're not going to sit on the information that we're getting either from our partners or what we are hearing directly from community. The scoping for our EIS this summer will have a formal comment period. There will be a scoping report in the fall, September, October timeframe. That'll be another more formal opportunity where we will be reflecting on what we heard during key milestones or phases of the project. If the impression here is that we were going to get to somewhere going into early 2023 and then, dump all the information we heard from the public at that point, that's not the way this is going to roll out. It's going to be very much as things are happening, reflecting back what we've heard, reflecting how they shape key pieces of this work.
That's very helpful. Councilmember Nelson, if you have more questions, we'll come back to you. Councilmember Mosqueda, would you like us to move on to Councilmember Peterson, or would you like to take, I see you are taking the floor. Take it away.
Well, I might just tee up my question and then see if Councilmember Peterson has a follow-up to it, because it's really within his bailiwick as well. So I'll just put it out there and then perhaps turn it over to Councilmember Peterson, if it's okay, Mr. Chair, to add to the theme. I'm sure my interest was in understanding more about how the transportation plan that's underway by SDOT is going to feed into the engagement comprehensive plan. And I'll hand it over, if you will, Mr. Chair, to Councilmember Peterson.
Sounds good. We'll fold that question into any and all questions Councilmember Peterson has.
I think that OPCD needs to address that question. The Seattle Transportation Plan, they're just starting their outreach right now, but I agree it needs to be incorporated, because if the idea is to grow our city in a way so that people can afford it and get around, with increased mobility options, we need to, for example, expand our bus system into areas where it doesn't exist right now. And so I think, the expansion of transit needs to be addressed, because one of the benefits of the urban village strategy was that's where there was a concentration of transit. And so if we're going to expand elsewhere, how are people going to have cars, or can they take the bus? So I agree, Councilmember Mosqueda, that needs to be integrated fully, the transportation. I was going to ask a question about displacement and those living on fixed incomes, and how you're reaching senior citizens, for example, and making sure their concerns are addressed.
So I'm going to thank you for both of those questions. If it's okay, I'm going to just reflect and share some information briefly on the collaboration, the coordination with SDOT, because, and thank you for the question, in that it was in my notes to to brief you on, and I skipped over that as I was going through the materials. We are very much working hand in hand with SDOT as they are standing up the Seattle Transportation Plan. We meet as staffs, our policy staff meet every other week. Our communications teams are meeting at a similar frequency to make sure that we are identifying all the opportunities where we can learn from each other and leverage each other's work. So for examples of that are the CBO partnerships. We are partnering with some of the very same CBOs for larger bodies of work that straddle the two plans. We are identifying events on the calendar where either they, SDOT or OPCD, can bring information, can disseminate information about the respective plans of the other department, and making sure those are identified on the calendar, opportunities to speak jointly if that is appropriate. And on the calendar for our monthly topics, the August into September cycle of the topical focus on our engagement hub will be transportation. And we are doing that as a partnership with SDOT, so we can highlight how the two plans will work together and get input from the community on that. So, that's just for starters, how we're trying to really seize this opportunity where these two plans are happening at the same time, which has not happened before. This is really a unique opportunity for the city. I'm going to defer on the outreach to folks with respect to displacement. Maybe I'll defer a little bit to Jason and to Rico to start on that, and I could flesh that out as needed.
I think one of the really important conversations that we're having with our Equitable Development Initiative Advisory Board centers on this issue of displacement. So the board was constituted as a place where community members who are leading in this area come together to develop shared strategies and target investments to help fight the forces of cultural, economic, and residential displacement in our city. So they are already leading in that conversation, and we are engaging with them on a monthly basis to share our plans for public engagement and to get advice and feedback from them on how we can improve in the kind of public conversation we're having around these ideas, especially around this idea of displacement. So they've already been giving us great advice about how we need to expand our reach of our engagement activities to more specifically address the needs of seniors in our community. We've already mentioned the Kamai project focuses on the needs of seniors, but there are other groups that we need to reach out to and learn more about the pressures that seniors are facing, especially with housing costs and other issues. But the racial equity toolkit work that we're doing with the EDI board is certainly another area where we will be focusing on the needs of BIPOC seniors as well. So it's an ongoing conversation. I think the EDI board has already been providing really valuable input in that respect.
I think the only thing that I would add to that is that, the only thing I would add to that is that we are looking at what our anti-displacement strategies are and will be as we develop our next version of the plan. But part of that conversation is also about how we get people back that have been displaced. And even in the most recent round of EDI applicants for funding, like we are starting to identify who are organizations that are working with displaced communities, who are organizations themselves that have been displaced. I think we're just at the beginning of this process, so we don't have comprehensive information at this time. But I think that we've got to, we can't just talk about how we stop continued displacement, but also how we invite people back to the city and make it affordable for people to do that.
And Rico, I should have mentioned that Apala, one of our community-based organizations, we selected them specifically because they are working with workers who've already been displaced out of Seattle that are commuting back in to work in the city. And we feel like that's a critical audience if we're going to understand how to respond to the people who have already left, but also those who are facing pressures.
Yeah, it's really well said. I think that it is important that we provide an avenue for people who have had to leave. I mean, I'm in Ballard, I'm in my district office today holding committee, and a lot of the people that I grew up with have not been able to get a foothold in our community. And so how, I think Jason, at one point you said the next major update to the comprehensive plan is not going to be our grandparents' comprehensive plan. And with that, when I go down to the Ann Folk Art Gallery on L2 of City Hall, there's a picture of the 1957 comprehensive plan that had duplexes across the city, right? And that's a way to invite people back, as well as I want to make sure, with or without increased changing zoning, rising costs of taxes and all of the fixed costs of our city that is becoming more expensive. We have to provide seniors ways to not be priced out of our community because they also are on a fixed income. And beyond that, we need to be able to provide them the tools that they can benefit from of having passive income, staying where they're at. And I think that those are some conversations. The ability to help our seniors stay where they are needs to be included in this and is a separate conversation. And I think that Councilmember Peterson raises a really important point that we have to invite, and I don't know if he said this actually, but that we have to be able to invite the people who grew up in our city back home. Councilmember Peterson, did I catch those correctly? Did I?
I really appreciate that issue being brought up, because that's the difficulty of the public participation process is who are we asking? And I agree, we need to talk to people who have been displaced and find out what their needs are, and not only ask them what their needs are, but ask them why were they displaced? At what when were they displaced? Was it due to an upzone? Was it due to something that we did previously, that city policy put fuel on the fire or something, or is it some other externality or some economic issue that happened? It's sort of understanding why each person was displaced, so that can inform us of doing this comp plan really in a really mindful, thoughtful, intentional way.
Thank you, Councilmember Peterson. I think we can talk more about this offline. As we know, private property sales are always a private matter, and so I know we can talk about this more later. Colleagues, any other questions for OPCD on this? Councilmember Mosqueda, please.
Thank you. I just wanted to appreciate the lifting up of the racial equity toolkit and your outreach strategy. And I think, anytime we can, reminding folks that is the guiding sort of document at this go around might make it feel like it's a different approach than it has been in the past. And also I think mirrors what other larger cities have done as well. But thanks for making that part of your commitment to community, but also internal strategy for making sure that our policies resonate with what we need now and in the future.
As always, well said. It's always hard to go after you speak. Colleagues, seeing no further questions, any last thoughts? Director Kirandongo, Jason, Michael?
I would just say I'm we have a lot of work ahead, which I'm really excited about and looking forward to. We've got a great team, and I am very much looking forward to the partnership with all of you as you're out doing outreach in your communities and having community conversations. We want to be arm in arm with you in that effort and make sure that we're actually being responsive to both community and to your needs.
Wonderful. We certainly can work with you to identify opportunities to return to the committee as the ideas start to roll out. I think as someone said, as surely they will, and identify key points in this process. It is a lengthy one, to have conversations with the committee to keep you informed, and we look forward to it very much.
And also, we know some important suggestions on how we can better be in touch with the community groups and organizations and community members that that we need to be in conversation with. So looking forward to getting your input and feedback.
Thank you all. We do look forward to continuing to work with you as the comprehensive plan major update process continues and unfolds. You'll be back here with us at committee often, I suspect. And thank you for all your work.
Thank you.
Moving on to items 2 through 8. Our next set of items are 7 appointments to the Urban Forestry Commission. Mr. On, will you please read the next 7 items into the record?
Agenda items 2 through 8, appointments 02201 through 02207, appointments of Hal Liam, Rebecca B. Newman, Leah Hall, Joseph Cisneros, and Kalisha Kurji, as well as the reappointments of David Michael Mooring and Joshua N. Morris to the Urban Forestry Commission.
Wonderful. Thank you, Patty, for joining us today. Let me see. There you are. Sorry. Screen, playing all these small screens. How are you today? I'm going to pass it off to you to introduce the nominees and have a chance for them to speak with us so that we can ask them questions and present for themselves. So take it away, Patty Baker.
All right. Thank you, Chair Strauss, and good afternoon, council members. I'm Patty Bacher, Interim Urban Forestry Policy Advisor with the Office of Sustainability and Environment. And in this role, I support the Urban Forestry Commission, which was established by ordinance in 2009 to advise the mayor and city council concerning the establishment of policy and regulations governing the protection, management, and conservation of trees and vegetation in the city of Seattle. And then the ordinance was then updated in 2017 to increase the membership to 13 members. And we're pleased today to put forward for your consideration appointees for 5 of those positions, along with 2 reappointments for commissioners who have finished their first term and would be heading into a second term. So again, the new appointees, and going in numerical order, we have position 2, which is the urban ecologist position. We have Joe Cisneros. For position 3, the natural resource agency representative, we have Felicia Kurji. Position 4, which is the hydrologist position, we have Becca Newman. Position 6, the landscape architect, we have Hao Liang. And for position 13, the community or neighborhood representative, we have Leah Hall. Most of those folks would be serving the remainder of 3-year terms that were vacated midterm. And then position 3 was recently vacated by Weston Brinkley at the end of his second term. So Felicia Kurji would be filling that position from the start of a new 3-year term. The reappointees we have are in position 7, the NGO representative, we have Joshua Morris. And then in position 8, development representative is David Mooring. We're excited about to bring this slate of folks onto the commission and to retain the reappointed commissioners, as together they bring a breadth of valuable knowledge, experience, and community connections to the commission at a time when their expertise is needed, as the community and the commission tackle issues such as climate change, environmental justice, and tree protection needs. So all of the appointees are here today, and I'm going to let them provide a brief introduction of themselves. Again, going in numerical order. Let's start with position 2, Joe Cisneros. And Joe, I know you're joining from the field today on your phone, so hopefully you'll be able to unmute and provide an introduction.
Hi, can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Hi, yeah, my name is Joe, Joe Cisneros. I am from Everett, Washington, and I've been living in Seattle for about 4 or 5 years now. I'm in the Fremont neighborhood currently. And yeah, I'm super excited to get working with some really amazing folks on the commission. I feel like I have a lot to learn. And I think my passion for the people and the natural spaces and ecology of our really special city and region of the country is something I could, something that I think would be some very, forgive me, I'm really tired from a long day of work. I think I can bring my passion to great effect for everyone on the commission. And yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
Patty, I just want to raise up the fact that I see that Joseph is an ISA certified arborist, which is not a fast task to complete. As we've discussed here in this committee, it takes about 3 years of hours on the job and then a 2-hour certification. Joseph, anything you want to add about how your ISA certification helps you in this role?
Certainly. That's something I obtained at the beginning of this year, I think late January, early February. I think studying for that exam, in the books and also just what I've gained through field experience and what I've learned from other folks who have been in the arboricultural industry for a while. I think there's a lot of science. Arboriculture is, especially from the ISA's perspective, is a very scientifically based practice. And I think, coming to the commission with that knowledge that, other folks, of course, have, but is something that I think is critical when we're looking at these sort of, like Patty was mentioning, sort of these climate justice issues and these, environmental justice issues, which I am personally very interested in working on the commission here.
Well said. And I also see you're a member of the Washington Conservation Corps. It's always great to see people in service to the state and the nation. Thank you for that. Looking forward to having you.
Of course. Yeah. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time today.
All right. Thanks, Joe. Next, how about position 3, Felicia Kurji?
Hi, y'all. I'm Felicia Kurji. My pronouns are they or she. And I have lived in Seattle for a couple of years now. I'm originally from Florida. And I work with Seattle Parks Foundation. So I'm really passionate about green spaces and intersections with environmental justice, and very excited to learn alongside y'all and learn more about the process within the commission.
Wonderful. And I'm sorry, Felicia, I'm having trouble finding your packet here on Legistar.
There was a misspelling on the agenda. It was
This was the amendment that Noah was telling me about, that we will need to bring an amendment because at some point in this process we had a misspelling. So thank you for that, Patty. I see, Felicia, your experience here as a community partnership coordinator with Seattle Parks Foundation, environmental aid for King County Department of Natural Resources and Parks, and as an urban forestry undergraduate researcher. This is a wealth of experience. This is like, you have worked in many different places, both, out the foundation being non-governmental entity, Department of Natural Resources and Parks being a governmental entity, and then urban forestry being a very well-respected school of forestry. How will these 3 pieces of your experience and expertise help you most in this role?
I think they would help me in that I have sort of a background in all sorts of places, a little bit of everything, not an expert in any, I wouldn't say that I'm an expert in any, but I think that it'll really help to look at things with a different perspectives as we're making recommendations and decisions about the urban forest in Seattle.
Wonderful. And I see Councilmember Nelson has a question. Councilmember Nelson.
I thank you very much. You know, what caught my eye was your work with the Seattle Parks Foundation, because I always say that, you know, we have to make sure that we're protecting our own canopy on our own land. And so I think that your perspective will be really valuable, because you're more of an insider than I am, of course. And so you have some insight about that, and you know, whether or not there is anything better that Seattle could do for our trees in parks and right of ways. So thank you.
Wonderful.
All right.
And we'll make sure to pass that amendment at the end of this. And Felicia, please accept my apologies on behalf of the city of Seattle for that error.
Thanks, and thank you, Felicia. Next, we have position 4, hydrologist Becca Newman.
Hi, I'm Becca Newman. I'm a professor of civil environmental engineering at University of Washington, and I bring expertise in subsurface hydrology, biogeochemistry, and plant ecology to the commission. And I'm excited to, learn more about how government works and kind of bring my scientific skills towards public service.
I mean, I can't say anything more than how excited I mean, Seattle has such interesting soil. I know here in my district, Ballard, we tried to put in some rain gutters along 28th that was a streetcar street, and nobody checked the soil. Being clay, they didn't work. And so I think that when we forget to look at the soil and how hydrology works below the subsurface, if we don't have that understanding, we're not going to be able to create enough soil space for a tree to either be able to survive or thrive.
Exactly.
Any thoughts about how Seattle's soil in particular is impacting how we need to be thinking about trees?
That's a good question. I mean, I guess I think a lot about the water holding capacity of soils and the nutrient availability, which are obviously crucial for plants to thrive. In my own neighborhood, I notice trees really, constrained by all the sidewalks and the streets. And I know that can also be a challenge in terms of having enough soil there even to catch the water to infiltrate in, and having our rainwater not, just go as stormwater, for example. I'm also very passionate about the ability of trees, to sequester carbon in soil. So capturing trees both as a climate adaptation as well as a mitigation strategy for the city.
Well, I'm very excited to work with you, and please, I love at an amateur level trying to understand how our water flows through our space, both subsurface and on top of surface, and how it's capturing, how trees retain our soil into the ground so that we're not having landslides, etc. Anytime you want to reach out, I would love for that conversation.
Thank you. Yes.
Councilmember Nelson, do you have a question?
Now would be a good time to plug a mycologist, or thinking about fungi and the health of our canopy. As an mycologist. That's it.
That's your background? Yeah.
No, I just amateur.
Oh, yes. Yes, fungi, microbes, all very important to the kind of soil around plant roots and the health of the ecosystem. I'll bring that in when possible.
Wonderful. Welcome, Becca. We're excited to have you.
Important stuff. Yep. All right, next we have position 6, landscape architect, Hao Liang.
Hi, my name is Hao Liang. If confirmed, I will be serving the commission as a landscape architect in position 6. I'm humbled by this appointment, and I'm looking forward to working with other commissioners and our communities in the coming years. Thank you, Patty, and the council members for having me here today.
Absolutely, we're excited to have you. I think it's important to understand how I mean, landscape architecture for me is just so very interesting. I think, when we look at how City Light even, or SPU has taken landscape architecture into the built public environment. It's changed how we looked at either drainage or public utilities work. Reading your resume, it's just a wealth of experience from across the world. What are some of the best practices that you've noticed in the places that you've worked that you can bring to Seattle in our work to preserve and expand the tree canopy?
I think it is important to have a global view as cities are essentially compete with each other. So I think the green infrastructure canopy is part of it. Is so important to promote our well-being. And also, as you mentioned about SPU and the utilities, I think green infrastructure trees, now we are trying to promote the concept of urban forestry is so important because we are thinking for long-term perspective to counter great challenges like climate change and social inequality. But in practice, in current practice of landscape architecture and other design fields, we are essentially serving for human comfort, which means many of our built projects are not align much with our long-term goals to serving the great challenges, to counter great challenges. So I think it is important to realize the great challenges from a global view and to understand the competition between cities across the country and around the globe, and to promote awareness of urban forestry and to protect our urban forests in the city for a better city and for our future generations.
So well said. That's why I love landscape architects. I mean, and bringing your experience from Beijing and Cambridge, which is on the other side of this continent, and we're very excited to have you. Welcome.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Hao. Next, we have position 13, Community Neighborhood Representative, Leah Hall.
Hello, I'm Leah Hall. I was born and raised in Seattle, and I spent a brief stint in New York City, but I've pretty much witnessed Seattle's growth over the last 40 years. I'm a mother of 2 small children. I'm a small business owner, yoga instructor. I was raised in an immigrant and mixed race household. And I just have, because I've grown up in Seattle, I just have a deep-seated appreciation for the greenery here. I have a certification in permaculture, landscape design, and a passion for native plants. I'm especially interested in this role to having witnessed kind of the relationship between tree canopy loss and development, and understanding the importance of affordability in housing and the importance of density. I feel that we can strike a balance somehow. And I'm also just interested in how tree canopy is important to human health, as well as how it can help mitigate, energy costs and health issues, not just to our community here, but even my relatives abroad who will become, the first climate refugees likely due to climate change. So I'm hoping that we can create a greener and more equitable future here in Seattle, and retain what we have and appreciate all of the many benefits that trees provide, as well as have a great walkable and healthy, beautiful environment.
That's really well said, Leah. And what stands out to me about what you've just said in your resume is born and raised in Seattle, move to New York, where, you know, that city is still a young city and is much older than Seattle, and to have the understanding of permaculture. With those three things combined, you know, our city is still very, very young. New York is more formalized, and yet we still see very old trees throughout the city. And then how do we get from where we are in Seattle as a young city to where New York is now? Because as time progresses, we will also age as a city. I'm not saying the development standards, so no one freak out here. I'm just saying that we are going to grow as an age as a city. How do we use permaculture to create a place that promotes the canopy that you were just talking about?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I mean, I think part of it is just having both the hindsight of how development has gone thus far and how Seattle really became a boom town from logging. And when the first peoples made contact with settlers here, how we greatly impacted the environment. We didn't have necessarily the foresight of, well, I think some folks had the foresight of how things could go, but I think using some of the permaculture principles of observation, seeing impacts of tree canopy loss, and then also having a systems view of how tree canopy affects all of these other systems like energy systems and human health and just the overall beauty of our city, right? Our emerald city. So I think having sort of being able to zoom out a bit and look at the city as a whole, but also seeing how the sort of networks, you know, someone mentioned mycology, and I think that when we look at the way that forests are structured, I think that we can learn a lot about how different systems, whether it be natural systems or organizations within the city, can function, and communities can function together in a cohabitating, beneficial way versus, you know, antagonistic way. So I hope that answers your question, but.
It absolutely does. You know, the ability to look back at time and say, oh, we should have done it differently. I think it's also should be noted when settlers arrived here in the Northwest, it was a lush place, bountiful of food. And that wasn't by accident. That was because of millennia of purposefully growing our forests in those ways. So glad to have you on, Leah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Leah. Also very well said. You can see why this slate of new commissioners is so exciting. They've lots to bring to the commission. We're also excited about our reappointees, Josh and David. So how about position 7, Joshua? Do you want to?
Sure. Hi, council members. It's great to see you. Thank you for considering my reappointment. My name is Josh. I've been serving in position number 7 as the NGO representative for the last 3 years. My day job, I'm urban conservation manager at Seattle Audubon. And that organization has been working and advocating for the urban forest since its founding in 1916, when we called the city to act against illegal log removal at Seward Park. So I'm happy to continue advocating on behalf of the urban forest more than 100 years later today. I really enjoy serving on the Urban Forestry Commission, and I have stepped up into the chair role earlier this year. And it lets me kind of work toward 3 things that are really important to me as an urban conservationist. One, conserving biodiversity within our city. We know that the urban forest in Seattle supports at least 100 different bird species, as well as many other types of wildlife. We also know the urban forest will play an important role in how our city adapts to climate change. And we know that redlining other racist policies have affected the distribution of vegetation across our city. And so working to address those environmental injustices and making sure that there is an equitable distribution of the environmental benefits of the forest, including opportunity to experience birds and wildlife in people's own neighborhoods, is really important to me. So thank you.
Thank you, Joshua, and thanks for your service thus far. since you have already served and you're in the chair position, what are some things that you'd like to see through, continue? How has the work that you've done translate into the work that you're going to continue doing?
Yeah, I'm really excited to keep building and strengthening relationships with city leaders, city staff, and our elected officials. We've already done some good work reaching out to the mayor's office and the council's office and staff at OSC and SDCI. I'm also really excited about our plans to improve how we engage with community so that our policy recommendations are more reflective of and responsive to community needs. And then just, of course, continuing to collaborate with the city on policies that will help us achieve our canopy goals. And we see some real opportunities through the comprehensive plan that we heard a bit about today, as well as through the tree protection ordinance update that SDCI has proposed. We've got some ideas for how we could track investments in the city, in the urban forest through the city budget. And we're excited to also explore improvements to the urban forest management structures.
Wonderful. Welcome back, Joshua.
Thank you.
Thanks, Josh. And it looks like David Mooring is on the line as an attendee calling in, which is different from the presenters. So is that the same process? Would it be a *6 for him to be able to?
I think Mr. G, if you could let David Mooring into the meeting, he is a panelist today. There we are. David, I see you are joining by phone. That works. Yeah, I guess that works.
Thank you.
If you don't want to join by camera, that works great.
Great. David Mooring, architect and a resident in the Magnolia Inner Bay area. Excited about the possibility and hopefully being reappointed for my second term as in developer architect position. And I've been working in the past few years with the University of Washington here in Bothell, and prior to that, University of Illinois in Chicago, but have about over 20 years of other experience with architectural firms in Chicago for international and national projects. Architecture offers an interesting insight, I think, to our tree canopy situation, because tree canopy and density looks at, science, mathematics, budgets, and art to create, I think, a beautiful city of Seattle. And I know that our city council members are very passionate about the tree canopy, as well as providing for the city's density needs. I know we have many residents as well, and I'm very excited about the diversity of the new panelists or the new commissioners that are also on the slate, and they all sound like wonderful commissioners to continue to work with. Look forward to the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, David. And Patty, can you confirm for me if we are not able to reappoint somebody today, they retain their seat until that seat is filled? Is that correct?
Yes, there is precedent for that happening. Somebody continuing to fill a position until, action is taken.
Okay, because I'd like to take this into consideration today. David, this morning, or I guess this afternoon, with 2 minutes each, you and another individual had what I cannot validate to be true on either side within the last hour and a half. I do just note that there were allegations made, and they were serious enough that if the person alleging those things, if they are not valid, that's a real, that is a big smudge on their reputation. If they are valid, I think that we need to fully understand the situation there. So with your commission seat today, I would like to hold it until the next meeting, understanding that you can retain your seat on the commission, because I have enjoyed working with you, and I do appreciate your perspective. So I just wanted to flag that and provide some space for you to respond.
Yeah, sure. No, that sounds certainly reasonable. Yeah, I don't need to get into detail here, but like I mentioned unexpectedly with the public comments here, the accusations I think that were made were probably based upon their stance. I know that you may also want to look into their they're being part of the appeal from of the tree protection code. So they have an agenda which is perhaps opposite of mine, which I consider my agenda to be density and trees. I think from the appeal that they have filed, their agenda may not necessarily be towards those two goals.
Yeah,
but I'd certainly invite you to look into those allegations and look at the real matter of why those what was being talked about. And I can certainly ask more or answer more questions about that as well.
Thank you, David. Yeah, I mean, in the 2 minutes back and forth this afternoon, if those are all of the details and it really was as presented, I won't have a problem moving your appointment forward. If there's more, and I think now is not the time to have this conversation. Now is the time to thank you for your continued service to our city, sitting on this commission. So that's what I'm going to kind of center right here and now, because these are volunteer roles and you've been volunteering your time to help us create better tree protections in our city.
Great. Thank you.
All right, thank you, David. And I want to thank all of the appointees for being present today and introducing yourselves. Again, we're excited about this slate of appointees and looking forward to these folks starting their terms as commissioners pending your confirmation.
Wonderful. So I'm going to go through a couple iterations since we have the items read into the record. I will move to hold appointment 02206 until the June 8th Land Use Committee. Is there any objection? Seeing no objection, we will hold that appointment. And as we were alerted, there was a typo in one of the packets. So if there's no objection, I move to amend the title of appointment 02205 to replace Kalisha with the correct name Felicia. Is there any objection? Hearing no objection, the title of appointment 02205 is amended, and on behalf of the city of Seattle, I do share my apologies for that, that mistake. So I now move to recommend confirmation of appointments 02201 through 02205 and appointment 02207. Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to recommend confirmation of appointments 02201 through 02205 and appointment 02207. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Peterson?
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson?
Aye.
Councilmember Mosqueda?
Aye.
Councilmember Morales?
Yes.
Strauss?
Yes.
5 in favor, none opposed.
Thank you all for your, the motion passes. Appointment 02201 through 02205 and appointment 02207 passes. Thank you all for your willingness to serve in these important roles, for your time as volunteers in these roles. And I do look forward to working with you in the coming months to finally adopt a stronger tree protection ordinance. These appointments will be back before the full council on Tuesday, May 17th, sitting to my Norwegian Constitution Day. You need not attend that meeting if you don't want to. And David, we will be back in touch to create a pathway and process forward to our June 8th meeting. Thank you, Patty. It's always wonderful to see you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, council members. Appreciate it.
Talk to you soon.
Take care. Okay, bye.
Our final items of business today are 5 appointments to the Seattle Design Commission. Mr. Ahn, will you please read the next 5 agenda items into the record?
Agenda items 9 through 13, appointments 02196 through 02200, appointments of Matt Alfs, Erica Bush, and Pooja Shah as member, Seattle Design Commission, as well as the appointment of Vanita Sidhu as chair, Seattle Design Commission, and reappointment of Elizabeth Connor as member, Seattle Design Commission.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Ahn. Mr. Jenkins, the floor is yours. Please take it. And I have to just say from the outset, I can tell these folks all work in design because of their backgrounds are all better designed than anything that I can do. So I'm already looking forward to this conversation.
Well, thank you, council member. It's nice to see all of you again. Let me just do a quick setup background for you. Again, thank you, council members, for your time today. We are seeking 4 appointments, 3 new commissioners who I'll introduce in just a second, and the appointment of our chair, Vanita Sidhu, who's currently in the landscape architect position. She had a meeting that she was unable to get out of today, and she sends her apologies.
I see her right here.
Oh, did you? Oh, great.
We took so long talking about everything else that she was able to join.
Hey, Vanita, thank you. And finally, we have a reappointment of Elizabeth Connor, who is in the artist position. Just a quick bit of background. The Design Commission advises the mayor, the council, and city departments on the design and environmental implications of city-funded capital projects, public projects seeking approval from the city, and projects that seek long-term or permanent use of a right-of-way. The commission activities are supported by a staff of 5, including myself. Commissioners are appointed for a 2-year term and are eligible for a second 2-year term. The chair is appointed to a 1-year term. The Design Commission is comprised of 10 commissioners that are appointed to specific positions. We're required to have 2 licensed architects, an artist, and an at-large position. The remaining positions are selected from a slate of design professionals, including landscape architects, urban planners, urban designers, and engineers. And finally, we also have a representative from the YMCA's Get Engaged program. And for our recruitment, we're required to use contacts with professional organizations, but we've been quite successful with outreach using social media, posting with community groups, and partnering with city departments to expand equitable outreach. I'm going to introduce commissioners in alphabetic order for their last names. I'm going to start with Matt Alfs, who's joining us as one of our 2 architects on the commission. Matt is the founder and principal of Building Works, a Seattle-based firm focusing on design, architecture, and preservation. Next would be Erica Bush as our urban designer. She's the founder and principal of the Central Collective, an architecture planning and design firm located in Seattle. Erica focuses her practice on urban design, placemaking, and public art. Next is Pooja Shah. She's joining us as engineer, and she's a principal at KPFF's Seattle offices. Pooja focuses much of her work on civil engineering and stormwater solutions that affect new commercial and industrial development. And finally, Vanita Sidhu currently serves in her last year as landscape architect on the commission and now as chair. She's a principal at Site Workshop, a Seattle-based landscape architecture firm where she specializes in educational and medical facilities as well as doing significant work with the Trust for Public Land, reclaiming public space for BIPOC communities in Central Washington. That's my introduction, and I'm sure you have questions for each of the commissioners. So if you don't have anything for me, I'll go ahead and mute and throw it first to Matt.
Sounds good to me. Take it away, Matt.
Thanks, everyone, council members, for this. My name is Matt Alfs. I've been a practicing architect in Seattle for about 22 years. I received my Master's of Architecture from the University of Washington. And throughout my my work, I've found interest and focus in the public realm, both in the design of public facilities, but also in buildings and the way that they meet and engage the public space in and around. So I have a great deal of respect, and I value the work of local government and particularly boards and commissions. For many years, I've been a presenter to other boards and commissions, the Landmarks Preservation Board, et cetera. And through the work, those working relationships, I found that we've had better outcomes in our projects. So I value this opportunity to be on the other side of the table with the Design Commission, supporting better design outcomes, better equity, better quality, potential for better quality of life. And I think the Design Commission is doing really important work in those regards to helping make the city a healthier, safer, and better place for everyone.
That's really great, Matt. And I can see from your resume, you've worked on a lot of libraries and schools, a lot of public institutions. I'll also say that you worked on Round Hall at Camp South, where I ate many a meal during the summer.
Excellent.
Help maybe add some light to how working on public institutions is going to influence, or how you approach that work with public institutions.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of richness there. But I think first of all, when we work for public agency clients, we are trying to help the agency, if it's a library, for example, get the most for the investment in the facility that's going to serve the most people. And then we think a lot about human-centered design and the pedestrian-oriented experience, as opposed to an experience, based on a vehicle or on other, planning considerations. I really think it's important to think about the human body and how the human interacts with the space, with the materials, with the building, coming and going, walking. And is it generous? Is it, does it support good health and a good feeling for pedestrians in the city? Because if it does that, then I think it helps create, it helps improve the experience of living in the city. So the other thing that we do a lot is we work on historic preservation or adaptive reuse. And we felt that with the really rapid redevelopment of much of the city over the past 10 years, there's been a loss of public place and a loss of, I think, shared resources in the built environment. And so by finding ways to reuse buildings, I think we can actually make a positive impact on the climate crisis because of the embodied carbon in existing buildings and stopping the need to use new resources to build new. But also, I think it has a positive psychological and cultural impact in the experience of the people that live in the city.
I could not say it better myself. I think I'm going to have a lot of fun with this conversation because it is the built environment is what shapes our experience here in our life in so many consequential ways. Really excited to have you, Matt.
Thank you.
Michael, is Erica up next? And then I lost track of who goes after that, so we'll just pass the microphone around. It's Pooja. Okay.
Erica, Pooja, and then Benita. So Erica, take it away.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here, Commission. I'm just so excited to be a part of this and to sit amongst, honestly, a group of people that I look up to and respect in so many ways. So from my initial participation in commission meetings, I can already see so much of what value this group brings to this city and to those that then go on to do great things. And I am very much looking forward to being a part of that. So I have been practicing for about 8 years. I too went to University of Washington. I received my master's in urban planning and master's in landscape architecture there, as well as a certificate in urban design. And I've always been a lover of cities. I grew up in New York City. I've lived here for 13 years now. I also lived in Boston and Montreal. And I just am drawn to the energy that cities provide. And I see it as a luxury to be able to work in sharing that sort of feeling that we get being in shared spaces with others. So that's a little bit about myself. I am also an artist. I do a lot of public art, particularly art that encourages people to spend time in public space and really think about how we use those environments differently. And I think there's this beautiful collaboration between architecture, landscape architecture, urban design, and art, how they all kind of fit together into this sort of orchestration of public space that I think is really beautiful. So that's a bit about me.
Well, we're really excited to have you. I see that you were able to work for the Downtown Seattle Association during some of Seattle's most intensive growth, likely since the gold rush.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about that experience and how that's going to help you here on the Design Commission? Oh no, as soon as we ask the question, Erica has frozen. I think that just demonstrates how much growth she witnessed in our city. It froze the internet. Anyway, about it, we're really excited to have you, Erica. And you're back.
I'm back. Did I freeze?
You did.
Okay, sorry. I don't know how much of that you caught. But yes, the DSA was absolutely wonderful. I was able to start the public art program there and sort of work to kind of demonstrate to the city how much that type of collaborative partnership with BIAs could bring to our public spaces. So it was very exciting.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Erica. We're excited to have you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Take it away.
Well, thank you all for having me. My name is Pooja Shah. I'm a professional civil engineer and a partner at KPFF Consulting Engineers. I went to school at the University of British Columbia. I grew up in Canada, and I moved to Seattle in 2000 and have been living and working here ever since. I've kind of experienced this city in a lot of different ways. I have been fortunate enough to work on some really cool projects, and whenever I'm out riding my bike, I get to ride past all the fun stuff I've helped build. I've also been a former member of the Seattle Bicycle Advisory Board and also SPU's Customer Review Panel. I'm super excited to be able to contribute my professional perspective to the review of the projects that come to the commission. And I'm also really interested in helping the city consider equitable access to services provided to its residents. So thanks again for having me.
We're really excited. And the list of projects that you've worked on, from King Street Station to University of Washington, Montlake Triangle, and the Rainier Vista. I mean, these are iconic.
Yeah, it's really actually, it's super fun now to fly home into Seattle and see the stuff that I've worked on.
And I think one thing that stands out to me on your resume, which is extremely important, is the ability to improve what we've already done. And I use the Burke-Gilman Trail and your improvements to mixing zones as an example. I know when the Burke-Gilman Trail was initially put in, it was because there was no political will to have bike infrastructure on our streets. So we created grade separated trails for multi-use, but that did not take into consideration the day and age where we would then have protected bike lanes and other forms of transportation mixing with the trail. Can you share how upgrading those aspects of the trail to include mixing zones, what you did and how that's going to help us with the commission moving forward?
Absolutely. I'm an avid cyclist, and so that has helped me kind of navigate the design of projects like that. I can see things from the engineering perspective, but also from the perspective of a trail user. And it's so common for there to be, conflicts between different trail users, pedestrians, cyclists, at areas where there's different junctions between trails. So it's been a really great learning experience actually for me to work on things like that. And to think about things differently, to think about things from the perspective of a wheelchair user. Everybody's got different needs for these trails. They're heavily used. And one of my favorite things actually on that project was walking the finished product with somebody who was in a wheelchair. And, you know, they're super honest about some of the things that they wish we had done differently. And they were appreciative of the things that we had done, but it just helps you kind of see things a little bit differently the next time around. So that is what I strive to do, is make it better the next time.
I mean, that's all we look for. I mean, that is excellent. That is the most excellent response I think I've heard all day, of just being able to see what we've done, fix it, and still be open to how to do it better. We're really excited to have you.
Thank you.
Vanita, we took so long to have you here at the committee. I would say in person, that we're here virtually. So Vanita, welcome. Please take it away.
Thank you. Yeah, I was worried I was going to miss this, and I'm glad I didn't. I'm a landscape architect by profession, principal and partner at Site Workshop. I've lived here in Seattle since 1998, though I am an East Coast transplant. Did my education out there, and I've worked on a huge range of projects. And currently I'm doing a lot of education facilities, including K through 12 within our Seattle School District and with other agencies. And I have experience at University of Washington, working on projects there, even with Pooja. And I just have to say it's been an honor being on the Design Commission these last 3 years. I've seen some great projects come through, and I've seen how we've worked together as a group to make those projects even better. You know, as a team, we adapted really well to the pandemic and going online, and you know, I appreciate Michael and everybody that supported that, so we were able to keep our reviews going, and I think continue to be effective. It's been a great period of partnerships in, you know, working with Sound Transit to think about how we're going to make that next phase of improvements the best they can be for the city. So I look forward to my last year here on the commission and doing my part with all these new members. So thank you.
Thank you for your leadership. I mean, beyond just going to the architecture or the landscape architecture school, just looking at some of the work that you've done, the Helen Summers building in Olympia, beyond being named after the longtime 36th district representative, it is a beautiful building. Working on Northwest Peak Park in Fremont. I mean, I love that park beyond words. I mean, it's just looking at the block project, home number 10, you have some amazing experience, and it's clear that, you know, your company also has worked on Thomas Street pedestrianization for the Seattle Center, the Ballard Avenue Street Cafe. You and your firm are leading the city and our state. I guess, what other words of charge do you have for your last year here?
Words of charge. One project I've been working on a lot for the last few years is a park project that's started with a group called the Eli's Park Project that is looking at how to be radically inclusive, which is a challenging thing, and that gets into, you know, accessibility, as Pooja was mentioning, with wheelchairs, but it also gets into our diversity as a city and our diversity of our backgrounds from, you know, gender and race and ability. And I think I like to bring that lens to all the projects I look at, and, you know, it's made me think, challenge myself in my work, and would like to challenge others too, because sometimes we think, you know, you can only do so much, but often there's just another way of looking at a project. So, and, you know, wellness, to me, wellness is a super important thing for our city as a whole, and it's in our projects. There are opportunities in the landscape, in the site, to really create these healthy environments that make us feel welcomed and comfortable and improve the quality of our environment. So that's something I think about a lot.
Wonderful. Yeah. Well, we are grateful for your leadership, and we're glad to have you back.
Thank you.
And Michael, did we have Elizabeth Connor with us today or no?
No, she wasn't able to attend today, but I'm more than happy to speak about, the artists on the commission oftentimes provide one of many moral compasses for us, and Elizabeth shares that, and her advocacy for art, equity, things that matter to the way that people use space. She carries that tradition. All the commissioners do. She definitely takes the commission into new places in those topics, and we appreciate the time that she spends and the commitments that she makes to helping the commission in realizing our work plan. So I will send you your best to her as well.
Please do. Colleagues, I've done a lot of talking here. Any questions, comments? Councilmember Mosqueda, please.
Thank you very much. And I like your questions for each of the nominees, Mr. Chair, for this slate and the previous slate. So thanks for taking up the mantle on that. I just wanted to see how impressed I am and excited when you all spoke. It really underscored the importance of social cohesion and how city design can foster social cohesion, and especially coming out of the pandemic and the consequences of so much isolation and stress, how we can create a city that helps people, yes, move it in and out and around our city without having to use single occupancy vehicles, but also how we can create more opportunities for public plazas and community gatherings and outdoor eating and all of these things. So it just makes me very excited about the public health approach that you're taking towards building cities of the future. And my little public health heart is full and very excited about the work that you will do. So thanks for the expertise that you're bringing to this body. And I look forward as well, Mr. Chair, to having a future conversation about the way that this commission really has, I think, an important platform versus sort of how maybe it gets duplicated in other realms with the design review bodies. And I am very excited about the overarching perspective that the commission and the commissioners can provide. So I look forward to having that discussion at a future point, but just very excited about the work and role that you all will be doing for our city, with our city, and how you can help create healthier communities and economies at the same time. So thanks for your service.
So well said. And I dare someone to speak after Councilmember Mosqueda. I unfortunately don't get the option not to oftentimes, here being one of them. But really, I mean, Councilmember Mosqueda, you nailed it. And I really like the direction that you're going with those comments. Colleagues, any other questions? If not, I'd like to recommend confirmation of appointments 02196 through 02200. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded to recommend confirmation of appointments 02196 through 02200. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Peterson?
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson?
Aye.
Councilmember Mosqueda?
Aye.
Vice Chair Morales?
Yes.
Chair Strauss?
Yes.
5 in favor, none opposed.
Thank you. The motion passes. Appointments 02196 through 02200 pass. Thank you again for your volunteer public service on the Design Commission. These appointments will be back before full council on Tuesday, May 17th, sitting to mine, or we can Constitution Day. And there's not a need for you to attend that meeting. And I really want to thank you for your service to our city.
Thank you, council members. I appreciate the time and the interest in the commission, and always look forward to seeing all of you. Thank you.
Right back at you, Michael. Colleagues, any other items for the good of the order? Seeing none, this concludes the Wednesday, May 11th, 2022 meeting of the Land Use Committee. The next regularly scheduled meeting of the Land Use Committee on May 25th will be canceled. So our next meeting will be on June 8th, starting at 2 p.m. I thank you for attending, and we are now adjourned.